All right, friends, welcome to the Blessed Family Podcast. I hope every episode we try and do things that are practical, that you can put into practice, that are very strategic for your family, for your worldview. Today, this is going to be extremely practical. 5 easy ways to train young children, ages 2 to 7, roughly. And that can go earlier or later. Just wanted to put an age limit on there. The goal of each of these 5 things I'm going to give you is obedience, self-control, dying to self. Now, when I say they're easy if you stay on it. They're easy if you keep doing it. But friends, we really underestimate the formidable years. From birth until 7, 8, 9, somewhere in there, worldview is established. What children think about authority. Whether or not a children is able to die to self, whether or not a children is able to sit there until you say get up, because they've learned, okay, mom, dad says sit here, I'm going to sit here. And they're able to do that. They learn that skill of dying to self in those formidable years. This is why adopting orphans who are older is often challenging, which is such an amazing ministry. I've had friends that have adopted 10, 11, 12, 13, 14-year-old boys and girls. God bless them. That's something the church needs to do, but it's hard. It's often very hard because there's no authority structure. There's no worldview of that. So we do our kids a disservice. I've talked to parents that are like, yeah, kids are great. My kids are great, but I can't wait till they're 12 so I can finally do something with them. Go out and hike. No, man. When they're 18 months, you've got a lot of work to do, and you're going to really hope you do it and hope you do it well. Okay, so the early years matter. Here are 5 ways to train them that are natural and that they fall into daily schedule. This is as you're going throughout your day. If you'll be aware, write these down, put them on your phone, put them on your mirror, think about them. They'll come up, and you don't really have to set aside time for them. You just do them, okay? All right, first one, sitting still. Oh, sitting still is so good because guess what? Kids usually don't want to sit still, and yet we make them. And they learn to obey. So I've got 3 contexts. One is blanket time, one is dinner table, and the other one is church. So let's say you get up in the morning, you're educating your children, you've got your 2-year-old, and you say, hey, and you put out their blanket, you put a couple books, and you say, stay here until mommy says to stop. You set a timer for 5 minutes. You set a timer for 10 minutes. You build up, and they get out. You just correct them a little bit. You put them back on there, and eventually they learn, okay, I'm going to sit here. And then you can do it at breakfast, lunch, and dinner, right? You sit there as a family, and you teach them, no, you stay here. You don't get up until you've been excused. You're not excused until you say, Mom, Dad, can I be excused? And we say yes. Church, okay, can't help it. You know why children's church is such a big deal? Because many families have kids that can't sit still, and people don't want to be distracted or annoyed. Isn't it sad that we ostracize our children with good intentions, but we ostracize them, if we're honest, in the name of not wanting to put up with them, and yet to train them. So if you do blanket time right, and if you do dinner time right, church is no problem. Sit them down, you say, you're going to sit here. Now their flesh doesn't want to, but they've been trained. They learn to have self-control. Jared, a 1-year-old, a 2-year-old can't have self-control. Oh, yes, they can. Absolutely they can, if you train them. I was going to get an oil change the other day, and I took Abraham. He's now 4, but this was a few months ago. He was 3. And I took him on purpose just to spend time with him and love on him, but also for this purpose, because I knew we were going to be sitting there for about 40 minutes. I set him next to me. I said, stay there. He stayed there. A couple of times he might have squirmed, want to get up. Dad, how long? I said, no, you wait. And if you're consistent with that, eventually they just learn. You can watch videos of 7-year-olds sitting for 2.5 hours, all dressed up in their Sunday best, listening to lectures and stuff like that. They just learn. This is the way, this is what you do. So that's number 1, sitting still. Number 2, bedtime routine. This also includes nap. Bedtime routines teach order. You do the same thing every day. Okay, time for bed. What does that mean? You floss, you brush, use the restroom, get your last drink. In your house, it might mean bath time. But you have this routine. You get in bed, you read to them, you teach them, you put in audio, you pray with them, whatever it is. And it teaches them order. story with Isaiah. So Isaiah is now 17. When he was about 3, and this is like a legendary story in our family. Many of our friends know of it. But Isaiah is very strong-willed, which can be a good thing if you train them right. And when he was about 3, he decided he was done staying in bed. And it was World War III. Now, by the grace of God, because very often I don't do a good job, but that night I was on my A game. I feel like I was on my A game when I only had 2 kids. 10 kids, I don't know if I'm still on my A game. God's grace, help us, get us through it all. You are good, to your glory alone. But Isaiah kept getting out, and I would calmly say, no, it's time for bed. And I'd spank his bottom, which spanking is legal in Texas, so I'm not breaking a law saying that. And I'd put him back in bed, and he kept doing it. And I kept calmly and firmly applying the consequence. And guess what eventually happened? Just like a stubborn dog that doesn't want the shock collar, but they just keep getting shocked. And eventually he was like, all right. And he stayed in bed, and that was it. The battle was over, and it wasn't an issue. But bedtime routines on times, I mean, there's always exceptions, right? But if you have an orderly schedule, this is what we do. They do the same thing. It teaches them order, self-control. Okay, number 3. This is called 1 now or 2 later. 1 now or 2 later. And this is a lot of fun. This teaches self-control in delaying gratification. Perfect example is cookie. It's dinner, you eat dinner, and you decide to have a dessert. Nothing wrong with that. You say cookies. Or no, actually, better yet, let's say this is a lunchtime. And you say, okay, everyone can have 1 cookie now, or in half an hour, you can have 2 cookies. And you lay out the cookies. They seem, it's like the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. God put it right in the middle of the garden, not on the edge. You put it right in the middle. You put it right there in front of them. You say, you can either have 1 now or 2 later. And it's not wrong if they eat it then, but it teaches them, because as they do that, if you do that often, they're going to be like, 2 later. And they'll always go with the later. And they learn to delay gratification. Film. Okay, we can watch 1 episode now of this Through the Bible cartoon. We can watch Torchlighters. Let's do Torchlighters. Okay, we can watch 1 episode now, or after we do some work, we can watch 2. It's up to you. And if they say 1, say great. But guess what they're going to do? They're going to watch 1, go work, and afterwards they're going to be like, man, I really wish we could watch 2. And guess what? It's going to be too late. So the goal is to teach children how to think, to teach them to be able to say, you know what? I can wait for that. I can wait for that. All right, number 4 is cleaning up. You guys all know this. Instruction is given. It's time to clean. At first, you as mom and dad, it's appropriate when they're young. Maybe you do 90% of the cleaning, but then it goes to 50%. Eventually, you're helping them. You know, you're singing the song, clean up, everybody everywhere. Clean up, everybody do your share. And you train them to obey, not only when told. So it begins with you working with them. It's always good to work with your kids, by the way. And then them being able to do it. But then as they get to, I don't know, it's up to you, maybe 6, 7, maybe earlier if you really want to be a rock star, they start showing initiative. So that means, okay, look, this is your room. Every day I want it clean by this time, for instance, okay? By dinner time, I want this room clean, or before bed, or however you do it. Or maybe you say, hey, I just want you to keep your room tidy. You get something out, you play with it, you put it up. Those are forming really good habits. I'm just going to confess, I don't do a good job of practicing that. But you explain it to them. You say, look, this is your Eden. This is your territory. You're responsible for this. The serpent's going to tempt you to eat the tree or eat the fruit of laziness. But you have to go show diligence. You have to do what Adam was charged to do, which is to work it and keep it. So cleaning up, keeping something tidy. This happens every day. It's going to happen for the rest of your life. So you can train them in that. Last but not least, daily lessons / reminders on obedience. This happens throughout the day as they're asked to do certain tasks. The saying we have is, to obey is to do things, and my kids know this, right away, with a good attitude and fully. Right away, with a good attitude and fully. And you've probably heard me teach on this, but we play a game where we say, okay, tell daddy to do something, and I'm going to leave one of these out. So they go, okay, move the pencil from point A to point B. And I just sit there and wait for 10 seconds, and then I do it. And they go, oh, you didn't do it right away. Or I do it, and I say, oh, man, fine. And they go, oh, Dad, that wasn't obeying. You didn't do it with a good attitude. Or then I only move it halfway. They say, you didn't do it fully. And you teach them this. So you're having dinner. You say, hey, son, Was your room clean? Did you clean your room before dinner? Yes, sir, I did. Well, son, I went by and looked and it's not done fully. Remember, what does it mean to obey? Right away with a good attitude and fully. I remember one time Jared, my oldest, he was, maybe 5. Miss those days, but it's good for them to grow up. It's God's will. And I asked him to load the dishwasher or empty the dishwasher, one of the two. And he copped a bad attitude. And I looked at him with a serious tone in my eyes. And I said, son, let's try that one more time. And it was cue for, you better answer right away with a good attitude and fully. I said, I need you to unload the dishwasher. Yes, sir. And he got right to work. So that is training them. So sitting still, number 1. Bedtime routine, number 2. 3, 1 now, 2 later. 4, cleaning up. And 5, daily lessons / reminders. These have opportunity to happen every day naturally. So we have these opportunities to train our children throughout the day. Let's take advantage of them. Friends, you're doing a great job. Keep it up. We can always improve our game. God's grace covers over the difference. Let's keep going for the glory of God. Love you guys. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.